Hello again and welcome to this latest live stream, the calm before the storm, if we're to believe the weather forecasters today. Thanks very much for joining us, 7 o'clock every night this week ahead of British Canoeing's AGM on Saturday the 13th of March. The AGM this year is virtual, of course, and if you want to go along you need to register, and registration is closing soon. If you're watching this live, it's tomorrow, Thursday the 11th of March at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Thursday the 11th of March. You can find the details on British Canoeing's website. Of course, it's a real shame we won't get to see each other in person, but there are benefits to these virtual events. We don't have to travel far. I'm going from the bedroom to the dining room. There's no parking issues this year, and we can wear what we want. I've got a lovely pair of pink deck shorts and I'm wearing them now. Thank you so much for getting involved this week. We really appreciate your comments and your likes and your shares, and please continue to do so. If you've missed the last two nights, then let me tell you a little bit about them. On Monday we had a She Paddles special for International Women's Day, looking at the leadership and coaching roles in British canoeing. And on Tuesday, yesterday, it was environment and access and a trip around the River Derwent doing a river cleanup. I also want to tell you about the things that are coming up later this week. Thursday, tomorrow if you're watching live, it's a mental health and paddle sport special with Black Dog Outdoors. And there's some great information there about social prescribing, which your club or your centre might want to get involved with. And then on Friday, it's all about rebooting your club communications and having a good look at how you can use social media. But what of tonight? Well, it's someone I was very lucky enough to see win a gold medal at the Paralympic Games in Rio in 2016. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to tell her story several times since. She's an MBE. She's a great ambassador for British canoeing and for paddle sport. She has a multitude of medals and she's got an inspiring story. I'm sure you're going to enjoy the next 20 minutes or so, and I'll let Emma introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Emma Wiggs and I am part of the paracanoe team at British Canoeing. I'm lucky enough to have been the gold medalist from the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games where paracanoe made its debut. I'm also an 8 times world champion, and I want to share with you today a bit around my journey into paddling, some of the key moments, some of the key influences and some of my hopes for the future. I think my first probably point to start is around how I ended up doing Paralympic sport. And I wasn't actually always disabled. I was able-bodied until the age of 18 when I went on a gap year to Australia. Unfortunately, I contracted a virus about 6 weeks into that incredible adventure, which paralysed me overnight in my arms and my legs, which I'm sure you can imagine was a bit of a life-changing moment. But I think when life chucks these moments at you, you've got a choice. And my choice at that time was to pursue my goals and want to get back to living an independent life and a normal life and follow my dream of being a PE teacher. So I just had to do that in a slightly different way with only 2/3 of me that worked. I was quite lucky that my arms recovered, given what I've ended up doing. I think it's probably quite important that my arms recovered, but my legs didn't. So from the kind of pelvis down, things didn't work. So I had to learn to live a new life in a wheelchair. And I did really for the next 12 years just pursue that dream of being a teacher. Sport took a back seat, which looking back now seems a really odd thing because sport had been such a huge part of my life. I was incredibly passionate about doing sport, all different types of sport, at all different levels. Canoeing wasn't one of them initially in my teenage years, but I think I did probably what everyone had done, which is experience getting in a boat for a guide camp or an activity at school or whatever it might be, you know, sitting in a plastic boat and experiencing being on the water. But canoeing wasn't one of my main sports at that time. So I spent the years learning to live a new life and get my qualification in teaching, and I ended up teaching PE down in West Sussex, and not really thinking about my life as a sportswoman anymore until I was given the opportunity to go to a Paralympic Talent Identification Day in the run-up to the London Games. And I think we all probably remember the London 2012 Games for being a real pivotal moment for sport in general, but specifically for Paralympic sport. And it was around creating momentum around people with disabilities doing sport at the highest level, and it being around the sport and the achievements rather than the disabilities. And for me, those games were an incredible game changer, and again, a moment in my life that changed the direction that I was heading. And I went to those games as a sitting volleyball player. So again, still not in canoeing, but needing my arms a bit more than my previous life. And you know, that journey had its challenges, had its ups and its downs, but ultimately the most important thing out of that sitting volleyball journey was that it relit that passion inside me that I'm sure you share, because you love sport, taking part in whatever level you might take part in it. You see the benefits of it. And the sitting volleyball really made a massive difference to my life and gave me back what I'd been missing. And I don't think I really realised that I'd been missing the power of sport. I think for me, the London 2012 Games, it still gives me goosebumps to think back at them. They were just such an incredible experience. You know, I clearly had never dreamt as a child of being a Paralympian because I wasn't disabled. But to be part of a home Paralympic Games is something that many people never ever get to achieve. So it really was a once in a lifetime experience in a sport that I'd had to learn from scratch. I'd played a bit of volleyball at school, but certainly not sitting volleyball. But the vibe around the games, the feel in London, the build-up, the 2 weeks of the games, and even the moments after the games, it was just transformational to London as a city and to the country as a whole. And it was absolutely a game changer for how the world see Paralympians and Paralympic sport. It was after those games where I realised I wanted to kind of pursue this in a different sport. I think Paralympic sport is a bit like the football transfer market. Straight after a games, the sports are out on the look and on the hunt for athletes that they might be able to transfer across into a new sport. And I knew that if I wanted to compete with the best on the world stage, I needed to move into an individual sport. And that was always quite a surprise for me, that I'd moved from a team sport to an individual sport. But actually, the paracanoe team is more of a team than any team I've ever been part of, able-bodied or disabled, because of the values that we share and the ethos and the work ethic that we share moving forward. So I was asked to go and get in a boat in Nottingham, and I think we all know, or most of us will be able to recognise what Nottingham's like on a windy day in January. But I didn't fall in, and I didn't mind what my hair looked like. I still don't. And I ticked a few boxes for the paracanoe team, and they kind of sat me down and presented this dream that we could make the boat faster, and that we could in 4 years go to the Rio Paralympic Games and win a medal. And I just thought they were crazy, but that really was this start of an incredible few years, and part of that journey we're still on. I think when I first got in a boat, it was cold and it was wet, and I was given a life jacket, and I thought, this isn't hugely hopeful. Do they think I'm going to fall out? And it was a big stable-ish Viper. It still felt very unstable to me, but it was from that moment when I first put that paddle in the water, and I was by no means an expert or even adequately skilled at doing it, but as soon as the boat was moving across the water, I fell in love with it as a sport. And it's that still gets me out of bed in the morning. It's that feeling of moving across the water powerfully and at speed sometimes, but just being in the outdoors that is the absolute key and absolutely fundamentally why I love canoeing as a sport. So from that very first day, wearing that buoyancy aid and not really knowing what I was doing, to now, I learn every day, I develop every day, and I fall more in love with canoeing. From those first early moments, we were kind of feeling our way and finding our way. I think what really grabbed me was the passion of the staff at British Canoeing, and the passion that they had in their eyes, that they wanted to make the world's best paracanoe nation, and they wanted me to be a part of that. And I could see that vision, I could see that desire, and they said it's going to involve training 6 days a week, That's non-negotiable. It's going to involve training in Nottingham. That's non-negotiable. I was living in Glasgow at the time. And I thought that sounds like quite a big commute, but fine. Yes, I'll do it. And, that's really where we went from. We bought into that dream and to that vision of training hard, working hard and developing not only me as a paddler, but us as a squad and as a group of athletes and staff together towards that kind of shared goal of Rio 2016. And I guess I thought they were crazy, that they thought they could turn this volleyballer that was pretty average. We came 8th out of 8th in London in volleyball, that they felt they could turn this volleyballer with tiny shoulders into a world-beating canoeist. But I thought it was worth the risk because of the setup I saw and just the feeling in the boat. We went from strength to strength and we broke world records and we won European championships and world championships year on year, and we made the boat faster every single time we raced. And there was something really addictive about doing something every day that you love even more every day, and getting the results and the outcomes of making that boat faster. And I think that's true at any level, whether you're paddling recreationally or whether you're paddling as part of a performance team. It's that feeling of making that boat faster across the water that is, probably pretty addictive, because otherwise why would we do it in all the weathers that we do? I think if I look back at Rio 2016, it was again an incredible life-changing experience. It was the first games for paracanoe, so we knew going into that games that we were the world's best paracanoe nation, and we wanted to then show the world on the greatest stage what our sport was about. It wasn't like rowing that paddle 2,000 metres, over 6.5 minutes or longer. It was 200 metres A to B in front of the crowd that was screaming and cheering with power and with speed. And it's just the most incredible spectacle to watch. So we went, to Rio very, very confident. There was only 6 athletes. There were only 6 spaces and there were 6 medals up for grabs, and we came home with 5 of them, 3 gold and 2 bronze. And, to just be part of that experience, going on a plane, going to a games that was in South America for the first time, and knowing that we were going to showcase this incredible sport to the world was an amazing opportunity. And we were history makers in that moment. So, to line up on a very windy lake in Rio with the iconic, statue up on the hills, and to just be part of that vibe was amazing. And I think the Paralympics actually had better crowds and more kind of passion from the people of Brazil than some of the Olympic events. So it felt incredibly special to be there, and to be lining up, and in one incredible 60-minute period on finals day we brought home 5 medals. So it was really quite mind-blowing to be a part of that. The actual race is a bit of a blur because I think I was really worried about this big crosswind that was blowing, and I can't really remember the actual race, but I certainly remember crossing the line and only hearing one beep and thinking, well, that must have been me. So I knew that we'd got the gold, and then being able to get to the pontoon and see my coach and our other staff and to then be able to go on the podium was, still looking back now, even though it's more than 4 years ago, it feels quite overwhelming to think back to that moment. To be able to look at the crowd and see, I had 8 family and friends there, to see them that have been alongside me right from the start, right back to Australia days, as an 18-year-old, right the way through to being able to achieve something that I don't think any of us thought was possible, was incredible. And as a team, to be part of that close team that, together with the staff, had achieved something that I don't think anyone thought was possible was just amazing, and still gives me goosebumps and makes me a bit teary today. I think there's always challenges, aren't there, in life and in sport, and I think COVID has presented that to all of us over the last year, in particular. When we got locked down the first time, it was 162 days to go until we hopefully were lining up in Tokyo, and it went to 520 odd, in an instant. And I think that was hugely challenging. We were all at the point where we were about to do selection we were about to know who was on the plane, and we were just in that last push. We got through what we thought was our last winter, and we were up for that last push. And to suddenly find yourself, a year and a bit away again, I think was really challenging. And I think everyone dealt with it in different ways. For me, I just wanted to use that year to continue to get over my wrist injury. I'd had wrist surgery about 18 months before that has massively affected the athlete that I'm able to be, particularly in the kayak. And I think it gave me an extra year to try and overcome some of those difficulties. But equally, I'll be a year older and I'll have to survive another winter. So I think it presented us with unforeseen challenges. And I actually remember we'd just come out of the flooding and the beast from the east and all these things that had affected us before. And then we went straight into COVID. So, as a canoeist, it's clearly not ideal to be at home without a lake and without your boat. But credit to the staff team, they adapted plans. We got some kit to our houses. We emptied our garages and turned them into gyms. We set up paddling machines in the garden and we cracked on because I wanted to maximise each of those days for when the games hopefully happen. I think, whilst COVID has presented huge challenges, I think particularly for canoeing, it's presented an incredible positive opportunity. I think our membership is 30,000 up on previous years, which is an incredible addition to our sport and actually a real opportunity to make more people fall in love with canoeing. It is such a diverse sport. There's so many different disciplines. There's so many options for people to try at all sorts of different levels. I'm just so excited about actually what COVID has presented to us as a sport. And I really am hopeful that, as a sport, as an elite athlete at that end of the spectrum, we're able to go on the world stage and hopefully inspire people, show people what we're able to do. And that hopefully means people get out in their boats, try different aspects of the sport and just get involved. And I think I feel a real responsibility as an elite athlete, and I feel a real privilege to be part of an elite programme involved in a sport that actually everybody can do. Whichever discipline they choose, everybody can get outside. And even in a COVID world, social distancing, all of those sorts of things we can do outdoors. So I am actually really excited about the opportunities that we've got to showcase this sport, but also to make more people fall in love with the power of paddling. I think one thing that I love about British canoeing and the whole sport is that it is really accessible at every level. In terms of the power of paddling being to improve our mental health, our physical health, to do it at a recreational level. I feel very fortunate and privileged to be able to do sport as my job. But equally, I've always been passionate. Even before I started canoeing, I was passionate about the power of sport to make us all healthier and happier. And for every age group, I think that's incredibly important. So, from a recreational point of view, to see people out on the water, to see people, out enjoying the outdoors and being on our waterways is incredibly positive and really, really exciting. I think canoeing will always be part of my life. I think I've now got the shoulders to do it. We've turned those volleyballers' shoulders into canoeing shoulders. It will always be part of my life. I can't see a part of my life where I'm not out paddling. I may be doing it a bit slower in future years, but I think paddling will always be part of my life and equally part of my family's life. We had times with families where we got some stand-up paddle boards and put them all on those, and they fell off and they laughed and they got back on and they carried on, and that's the beauty of paddling. It's accessible to all, and it will absolutely always be a huge part of my life. I think for me as a canoeist, both now but also in the future, when it's just part of my life as a recreation, it's so important that we are aware of the Clear Access, Clear Water campaign, making sure that we're getting the awareness and getting the access to our beautiful waterways. It's absolutely criminal that only 4% are usable and uncontested, and we need to change that. So, being part of canoeing means that we've got an obligation to try and make sure that we have got the rights and the access to these waters. But equally, it's being in the outdoors, it's being, involved in the environment. I'm hugely passionate about making sure we look after our world and protect it for the youngsters that are coming after us. And being able to be part of an outdoor sport gives us a real opportunity to make a difference, both for, whether it's picking up plastic from your local river or just being aware of what we need to do to help our environment. I think puts us all in a much better place. I think this summer hopefully will involve an Olympic Games and a Paralympic Games. I think it's a real opportunity to give the world some positivity, to give the world something spectacular to watch and to be part of and to be inspired from. I hope I'll be part of it. We'll have selection at the end of April, where hopefully we will finalise the team that will be on the plane to Tokyo. I think there's so many things we can't control in this day and age, and actually I train as if the games are going ahead. I am not one of the decision makers. I can't control whether the games will or will not happen. I believe that they have the best opportunity of happening, and I believe if it's safe and if it's right, they will go ahead, and I hope to be a part of that. I hope to also be making history and paddling two different boats, so paddling the VAR, which is obviously a canoe, and the kayak for the first time ever at a Paralympic Games. And really, I'm very, I kind of have a different perspective and a different outlook on life, both post-injury and also post-COVID, about what's important. And for me, I want to paddle both those boats and be proud of the performances that we deliver in Tokyo. I want to make the team proud. I want to make my family proud. And I believe if we can do that, then hopefully we will create history and come home with something shiny. But absolutely, it's important that the world is ready, that it's appropriate the games go ahead, and hopefully when they do, we can put on a show. I think finally, just to leave you with a message, it would be to keep your passion for paddling, whether that's you starting out new as a new member, having found it in the last year, 18 months, or whether it's someone that's been paddling for 40, 50, 60 years. We know it's an incredible sport. Keep your passion, keep paddling, and keep enjoying the incredible outdoors and everything that this sport has to offer.
That was great, wasn't that? The amazing Emma Wiggs, part of the paracanoe squad based in Nottingham, and a shout out to the whole paracanoe squad. Some great messages there from Emma, a brilliant speaker. And thanks for the messages that you've sent through. Drew saying to Emma, thank you for sharing your incredibly inspiring story. If you want to drop a message in the next couple of minutes or so, I'll give you a shout out. Attila saying, very inspiring, Emma, great speaker. Claire Rutter, Claire's saying, such an incredible journey. Thank you for sharing. I'll come back to Claire in a moment. And Andrew Orton, fantastic enthusiasm, Emma. Emma Wiggs, gold medal winner from the Rio Paralympics, part of the paracanoe squad based at the National Water Sports Centre. Just want to let you know about the next couple of nights. I'm here again 7 o'clock on YouTube and Facebook on Thursday and Friday. And if you can't make it live, I hope you can, because it's great fun to have you here. You can get it on catch up, and you can go back for the last couple of days and go back and see what we've been doing on Monday and Tuesday. But tomorrow night, it's a mental health special with an organisation, a charity called Black Dog Outdoors. Lynn Dale is the main guest, but I mentioned Claire Rutter, who dropped a comment down there earlier. Claire sent us 3 amazing selfie videos, postcards from her home in Wales, talking us through her mental health journey. And it's fascinating, and you'll love it. I know if you enjoyed listening to Emma, you'll enjoy listening to Claire tomorrow night. So make sure you do that either live at 7 o'clock or later on catch up. And on Friday, we've got Reboot Your Club Communications and some social media tips. And that will round up this week of special live streams between 7 o'clock and 7:30. It's about half an hour every night. I can also tell you that if you're enjoying these live streams, starting next week on a Thursday evening, and we'll give you the time later, the Paddlecast series with Etienne Stott is making its reappearance. It was a big hit last summer. It's starting again next week, next Thursday evening. More details to follow, but some great guests coming over the next few weeks. few more shout outs. John Chamberlain, thanks Emma, best wishes from the Midland Canoe Club. Thank you, John. And Mark Thomas saying thanks Emma, thank you for sharing your story. Best of luck with this year's games. So thank you very much indeed for all your comments, for your likes and shares. Do join me again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, when we have a mental health and paddle sport special. Thank you for watching and have a very good evening.